do have some slides, however, this is intended to be a guided conversation. So we can go through these slides in order, jump around, ask any questions throughout. This is not intended to be us talking at you, but we want to hear from you about the zoning. So let's go ahead and start with some introductions. I'm Ember, Batelaan. I'm the city planner for the city, and
Kevin Kubo, Development Services Director for the City of Hastings.
And then if you want to go around, we'll start going this way. There's a sign-in sheet, and just say your name and your favorite color.
Amy Sandine, favorite color is sunset orange today.
Galen Krantz, blue.
Okay.
Edward Krantz, blue.
Gloria Green. Paula Johnson, blue.
Jody Johnson, green.
Roy DeMars, turquoise. Are we going to have a test on this?
Yes, you will be tested at the end of the session.
Steve Ross, red, white, blue, otherwise purple.
There you go.
Babs Moffett, yellow.
Jennifer Simmons, purple.
Dorothy Hoffman, purple.
Edna Snitker, Irish, green.
Nice.
Kathleen Nelson, blue.
Roger Kaufman, blue.
Ron Stevens, royal blue.
Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. It's great to have you all here. So I'll start with, we put together a little bit of an agenda. We can follow these, and as you have questions, hop on in. So I'll start with a little bit of background on what we're doing with the zoning code, the regulations we're drafting, and where we're at now. After that, the agricultural and residential districts. Each table should have at least one copy of the code in front of you with the draft regulations that we've put together so far. I don't expect you to read everything, but if you do see something and have a question, that's what we're here for. And we'd be happy to meet with you anytime after this meeting as well. Then next is commercial and industrial districts. We drafted regulations for that, kept some of the regulations the same. That's also in your packet. And then a timeline of what the next steps are for the adoption of the zoning regulations. So I'll start with this slide. This is, as you can tell, a robo. There are many different things that go into writing these zoning regulations. How many of you are familiar with zoning regulations? Let's start with that. So a couple of you. Well, in case you don't know, zoning regulations basically determine what uses you're allowed to build on your property, the heights of those structures, the distance from your lot lines. It's basically any regulations that have to do with your property and what you can do on it. Those regulations are determined either by state statutes. The state has certain requirements that we have to have in place, as well as a comprehensive plan that we adopted last year. And citizen input is another important aspect of the zoning regulations. We put these regulations in place to protect the character of the district, so single-family neighborhoods. If someone builds a commercial or an industrial use right next to yours, that impacts your value of your property, how you experience your property. So that's the big reason for zoning regulations, is to mitigate impacts from other properties onto yours. So with the background, all four of these items, you basically have to be rowing in one direction, because if you're rowing in different directions, your city doesn't go anywhere as it grows into the future. So we have to take state statutes into consideration. We've looked at what other communities in Nebraska are doing, similar sized communities. The comprehensive plan is that vision for the future of the community, and then citizen input. This is one of those sessions that we're wanting to get your input on what we've drafted and on the next steps as well. So starting with state statutes, these are the state's requirements as well as federal government requirements that we have to take into consideration when drafting these regulations. So the first one is an affordable housing report. The state legislature requires cities of the first class, of which Hastings is one, to draft an affordable housing report every 2 years. We have to submit that to the legislature, and that basically states, what are we doing for affordable housing? Do our regulations block affordable housing in the community? There's many different items that we have to address in that report and then send it to the state. Along with that, the state also required us to adopt an affordable housing action plan. So in 2023, we hired consultants to assist us with writing this affordable housing action plan. So that plan identified how much housing do we need, what are steps we can take to ensure that the housing is affordable housing, and one of those steps was revising our zoning regulations. So the zoning regulations determine what you're allowed to build on your property. And for example, if we don't allow duplexes to be built, that's one type of housing that could potentially be affordable housing. If someone lives on one side, rents out the other side, that's a source of income for them. So one of the things we're looking at is how can we allow different kinds of housing throughout the community. Another one is the Fair Housing Act. So that's at the federal level. It prohibits discrimination in housing, financing, and rentals based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or disability. So basically, we can't look at who's living in the house. We can only look at, like I mentioned, height, the size of the lot that the house is on, those types of regulations. We can't look at who's in the house.
So if a house just basically, I see a number of old homes that have just basically been taken over into multifamily residence that are zoned as single-family residence. There's no, as far as I can see, nobody's paying any attention to what's going on in some of these neighborhoods. I mean,
So
there has to be somewhere along the line where we start saying, hey, we got to monitor what's being turned into rental property and how it's being treated in, you know, you say in the single-family residence communities. I mean, I live on North Hastings, and I could count in a 2-block radius, there's probably 8 rentals that probably the city has no clue that they are rental properties.
Some of those older neighborhoods, that does happen, because those neighborhoods, they're not zoned for single-family residential. They're zoned for multifamily residential. So in that neighborhood, since you have a single-family house, it may have had 4 or 5 bedrooms. Back in, the war, a lot of those homes were converted into those rental units with multiple units in them to address the housing need at the time. So that is an example of that's a high-density residential neighborhood. Even though from the outside it looks like a single-family house, but that was converted into multiple units.
Well, the ones I've looked at are zoned as R1, so, I mean, they're zoned as single-family residence. So.
And we can take a look at the zoning code as well. I can pull that up. That was the wrong one. So this is our land use map. This is available to the public, gisadamscounty.org map/land use. And then under these 3 squares, there's the zoning layer right here. So if we look at, you said North Hastings. So this darker colored orange is the high density residential. A lot of those properties are currently developed with single family houses on them, but they're zoned for high density residential. There's other homes like along North Lincoln, those are zoned for R1, which is that low density residential.
When you say developed now, what do you mean? I mean,
So-
these houses are over 100 years old. There's nobody building a house in that neighborhood.
Well, that's
There's no lots.
That's what I mean, like, on the property right now, there's a single-family house on it. It was developed with a single-family house 100 years or more ago. So it has been developed with a single-family house. That has been converted into multiple units. The zoning is high-density residential, which allows for multiple units on a property.
Okay.
how does that change with the new map?
So with the new map, we have aligned this with our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan was developed with consultants and community input. At this point, it's 2 years ago. And this identified in the next 20 years, how should the community grow?
Okay, but how about specifically
So-
at North Hastings?
Yeah.
More housing, that's.
So North Hastings, what we have proposed for that area is medium density residential. So currently it's high density residential. We've lowered that down to a medium density residential since, like I mentioned, most of that area has single family homes.
So that
If-
would be maximum of fourplex then?
Yeah, that would be a maximum of 4 units if the lot is big enough for
I
it.
would like to discharge.
At breakfast, Mom said, your sister's twins will take your room.
If that's not going, I'm busy.
Thank you for reminding us to turn off our phones.
It was off, it just jumps on.
But yeah, so up to 4 units if the lot is large enough. A lot of these lots, they're only like 50 by 100 feet. You wouldn't have the space to build a 4-unit structure. So if a structure were to burn down or need to be demolished, the next person who builds back on that property, they wouldn't have space to build anything other than a single-family house.
But could they go up?
They could build up to 4 units if it fits on the
Well, I
property.
mean, in height.
Oh, in height, we have a maximum height requirement. Currently, it's at 35 feet to the highest point of the roof. And what we have proposed is 20 feet at the eaves. So that does not consider whatever roof it has on top of it. That's just if it has 2 stories, that's about at a 20-foot eave height. So they could not build farther up. They would be limited to that 2-story structure. So then, like we had mentioned, the comprehensive plan, that is that 20-year vision for the future growth of the community. So the comprehensive plan, the consultants came in, they looked at what's the existing density of our neighborhoods, how many dwelling units per acre. That's how they looked at that. So over on 2nd Avenue, it's between 0.25 to 0.69 dwelling units per acre. So generally, large lots, not many houses. Then around Lake Hastings, it ranges from 0.6 to 4.88 dwelling units per acre. And in the comprehensive plan, the consultants proposed up to 7 dwelling units per acre. So generally keeping it the same, but allowing for a little bit of growth in that area.
Can I get you back up just a little bit, the
Yeah.
question here? Before you get into this, you're talking about in the older houses, they live in 4 apartments in. So will this change that at all? Will the owner of that house, the landlord, have to rent something out and make it into
No,
2?
so if a property already exists, it's allowed to maintain. That's considered a non-conforming structure if it doesn't comply with these new regulations.
But if something happens to the house, or if they do any significant work on it, they have to start conforming to the new regulations?
Isn't that a 50%?
Yeah, if it's demolished to over, no, if it's damaged to over 50% of its value, then it would have to come into conformance with the code. So in that case, 50% of its value, you would not be able to rebuild it exactly the same. You'd have to make sure that your lot size, your height, that conforms with
So
our
if they
code.
did nothing more than a updated remodel, it wouldn't affect them?
No, if it's remodeling or repainting or any,
Yeah,
or even if it does get damaged, but it's only 30%, you can rebuild it back to how it was. It's
Yeah.
just if it goes over that 50%.
and it has to be how it was, or can you upgrade it a little bit? Make it a little bigger?
Well, you can't increase the nonconformity, so you would not be able to make it bigger. You'd either be able to decrease the nonconformity, so either
Okay.
come into compliance with the code or build it back the same it was. You can't make it either a taller structure, wider structure, take up more of your lot, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Who determines how much is damaged?
Insurance.
If you go off insurance and it's more than 50%, they'd say it's a total loss, or if it's right at, or if is that how that would be determined?
Yeah, that would likely be insurance. We don't have anything in our code that specifies how that gets
Like half the
determined,
square footage
so.
or whatever.
That also be
Yeah.
assessed value.
Basically, that's how we
Yeah.
do it for floodplain management, is we take the assessed value of the structure and then whatever damage is to that and divide it and give you a percentage. If it's over 50%, then you have to bring the whole structure up into compliance.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
the
can-
same with the non-conformity assessed value, yeah.
Like who's assessed value, insurance assessed value?
It's on
county
on the county's website.
Calgary's
Yeah.
website value?
Or we allow people to get their own valuation from an appraiser.
Yeah.
Let's say you don't have a house on one of the properties. Is that going to be a problem about somebody building on your property?
If you don't have a house on the property, once these regulations are adopted, you'd have to build that house to these regulations.
So I have 2 properties that we bought together. So would I have to do something with that other property that has no house on it?
A property is required to have a house on it, so unless you combine those 2 lots into one property,
That's what we did.
okay, you did that, then yes, you have the house, you don't have to do anything with that other land, you can put a garage on it, that's your property. It's just if you're building a new house, that's when these regulations
Okay.
come into effect.
All right. Because I know your university place has lots of property and stuff. I live over by the college.
So then with the comprehensive plan, speaking of the college, that area has a density of approximately 1.27 up to 11.58 dwelling units per acre. So in the comprehensive plan, the consultants show that as a medium density residential area, which would be about 7 to 15 dwelling units per acre. And then Pioneer Trail Flats is just off of 33rd Street. It's currently at 16.4 dwelling units per acre. And the high density residential zoning district or high density that the consultants proposed was at 15 or more dwelling units per acre. And our
That means that they build 15 separate living spaces on 1 acre? Is that
15
what you're
dwelling
saying?
units, yeah, so, you'd look at how big of a property you have. If your property is exactly 15 acres, you could build 15 dwelling units in like a multifamily apartment complex. You could build 15 individual properties on smaller lots.
Okay.
So how much room between these places will there be?
That's also in the regulations.
Walk in and back out.
According to fire code, you need at least 10 feet between structures, so as long as you meet that minimum of 10 feet between structures, you meet the setbacks, you have the parking available on your lot, then you're able to build those kind of things, so
Probably
it's
be more like row housing then, right?
potentially, that's,
Because
yeah.
each individual dwelling has to have its own facilities for bathroom.
Yeah, bathroom, sleeping, and kitchen facilities are the minimums that are required in a unit. So if you have 15 units, you have those facilities, you have minimum parking requirements that you need to provide on your lot. If you look at all these regulations and you have enough space on your lot, then yes, you could go 15 dwelling units or more. Because in the case with Pioneer Trail Flats, their property is over an acre, but when you calculate how many units they have, that's about 16.4 dwelling units per acre on that property.
In the comprehensive study, did they talk about like property values decreasing of your neighbor if something like this goes out?
They didn't specifically mention property values going either up or down. What they're looking at is with the future land use map is they're looking at where should this growth go. So generally, in terms of planning principles, you want your higher density residential along your major arterials. You want your medium density as sort of a buffer between high and low density, and then your low density is more of your middle of your neighborhood type of thing.
So do we have a developer? I mean, what you're getting at here is you want to find some medium housing, is what I'm understanding from from the LB 866 and what you're presenting. So the question I'll ask then is, what you guys say in here you want to do and what LB 866 says you want to do. Like, okay, all these developments that got the TIF financing, that was your perfect opportunity to say, hey, we're giving you something, we want something back. Let's take 2 of these lots. Let's put a triplex or a duplex or a fourplex. Did we propose that?
So that's something that,
I mean, that's pretty specific in what the state recommends.
yeah. So with these kinds of things, there are no developers at this point in time. This is when developers come to us. We can either tell them, no, you can't build that on your property, or yes. That's what we're looking at here. Whether the market determines that that's a need, whether developers come in and build it, that's not what the city is looking at.
At what point do I get a say? Because I'm sure that you guys are maybe wondering the same. I hope you're wondering the same question, because if I think we're all want our house to maybe be an investment. At what point do we get to say that I don't want an apartment complex of 11.27 dwelling units or whatever the term may be? I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. Going up next door to me because I bought this on a major road because I want an emergency route when it snows. I bought this with that in mind because I don't want to shovel, I bought this pre-planning for my retirement.
Yeah.
And that was my thought. And yes, it's on a main road and I can see the value for an apartment going there, but I don't want it.
So your first opportunity would be now, because the numbers we have in there in terms of the height that would be allowed for structures, the number of dwelling units, the types of housing that's allowed, that's all in these regulations. If we don't allow it, people obviously can't build it. The second part to that is this proposed zoning map. So in all of these areas, we have proposed as medium density residential. Up here, Elm 26, that's all proposed as high density residential because that's what they're currently building.
And
out here by Marion and 28th, high density residential along Marion. So if you see something in this map, and this map is also publicly available to look at as well, if you see something on that map that's not going to work, let us know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm an excited talker, so I'm like, blah. But like Elm 26, I don't know how anybody else feels. I'm just gonna say, maybe the traffic could have been done, maybe looked at a little bit for that. But
that's the second opportunity. The second opportunity, like with Elm 26, is they went through a rezoning process. In that rezoning process, letters were sent to property owners that are 300 feet around that property.
Yeah.
So they got a letter in the mail. It was also taken to Planning Commission and City Council for approval. Because before that, that area was zoned as R1 low density residential. So that's.
And I'm not saying that the city did not. I'm not saying that the city did not do due diligence, and please, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that is not in my forefront. But and the signs are small, but I don't check this map every day, So that's my bad. I didn't. But that's really a large build. And I know that you said they're filling up. I don't know about that, but I know that you said that they are, but I'm in the business and I don't know about that, but I'm gonna trust you on that, but perhaps the traffic and stuff is, I live on 14th and the traffic is terrible there, and I know it's terrible there, but sorry to, but I don't want that next door to my house.
Yeah, I completely understand the concern, and that's why we have these processes in place, so that it's not just suddenly my next door neighbor's building a 3-story apartment complex.
That was a huge.
How did they end up lighting that area?
Most of Hastings
So
isn't white.
that was the CRA, Community Redevelopment Authority, hired a consultant to do a blight and substandard study for that area. There's certain state statutes that you have to meet in order to qualify as a blighted and substandard study. The consultant determined that this area does qualify for blighted and substandard. It then went to Planning Commission and Council. It was approved by them, and that's when it had that designation.
Can I also ask another question? I'm really sorry.
What do you got in your cup?
Ice cream. I'm also a little codependent, so I say I'm sorry a lot. There's a lot of consultant talk. What does that cost? What is the cost on consultants? Can you just give me a ballpark?
This is what you submitted to the state, 30 pages of what some consultant put together for you. Basically, and I believe you're deviating from a lot of it, but
Is that
this is the city's plan that was submitted to the state that I printed off of your website.
for the Affordable Housing Action Plan?
Well, I guess I guess that's what it is, and it's talking about the zoning and, how this is zoned, and so this, I'm assuming this is what you're saying, your consultant you hired.
That's one of the consultants. The blight study was a different
So what
consultant.
did this cost?
I think that one was around 20,000. It depends on how much time and effort goes into these studies. Blight studies are generally cheaper because there's less information needed for those. So I think the ones we had, they did 2 studies for about 15,000, so about 7,000 each. Housing studies, there's generally more time and effort involved in those, so those are more expensive.
Those
And
are
then,
down, the first one was around $25,000.
and then comprehensive plans, there's the most information and data collection required for those, so those are typically the most expensive plans.
So is there a way to, I know that I asked about one of them and you said it was beyond our scope, and that's for the railroad stuff in the Ward 1 meeting, and you said it was beyond the scope of some of our, and I totally understand that there comes a time when we have to, gather that information. I think, is there a way to not do that? Is there a way to
By state statute, we're required to adopt a comprehensive plan, and in order to get grant funding, oftentimes the comprehensive plan has to be a certain age. It can't be over, I can't quite remember what the age is, but about 10 to 15 years. Our comprehensive plan is a 20-year document.
Okay.
So we have 20 years before we would need to adopt a new comprehensive plan.
Okay.
With housing studies, it's the same thing. This Affordable Housing Action Plan was a requirement through state statutes. We had to adopt one. Housing studies, it's generally a 5-year time frame. So every 5 years, you'd have to adopt a new housing study, and that also has to do with grants, because when you apply for grants, they'll look at, do you have a housing study in place? What are the action plans? Does this grant fall into the implementation of your housing study?
So what makes the consultant, what are the certifications, or what makes the consultant okay by the state to do that? Is there?
So consultants generally have an AICP certification. That's the American Institute of Certified Planners. In order to get that certification, you go through a schooling program about community and regional planning. They have one at UNL. That's what I went through, and I'm currently studying to get that certification.
Oh, okay.
That certification is something that the consultants, usually either the principal consultant, the planners that work under them, they have that education, the experience, and that certification to show that they've learned the principles, the theories behind the the planning and growth of a city. And they also have a code of ethics that they follow. Like, these are the things that they're required to do. So when we hire consultants, that's one of the things we look at is we look at, do they have that certification? Do they have planners on staff that know what they're doing? Does what's in their scope match what we need?
Okay.
So to get to this point, before having citizen input like this, it sounds like there are state processes and statutes and policies that you have to adhere to, hiring those consultants and taking those steps before drafting something and then going out for public input. Is that correct? So your hands are kind of tied a little bit?
So in terms of consultants, cities aren't required by state statute to hire consultants. There are certain larger communities that do housing studies, comprehensive plans in-house. Since it's only Kevin and I, that's oftentimes not feasible for the city itself. So like in Lincoln, they have a planning department with at least 5 planners just in the long-range planning division. All they do is work on long-range planning. So they write their own comprehensive plan, their long-range transportation plan, those types of plans. But oftentimes in the smaller communities, if you only have a couple of planners, or even one in even smaller communities, there's so much time, effort, research, citizen input that goes into those, it's oftentimes not feasible. So then a city will go out, hire the consultants. The consultants will share a draft plan with the planning department to review it, make sure that local input is in the plan before it gets adopted.
So who decides that we need to hire a consultant? I mean, is that anything we can jump in on, or it's just the city itself, or who does the decision there?
That's a multi-layered process. We don't hire consultants unless we have to or we need to. Like the comp plan, that's a project that's out of our scope. But also you want a third party to come in and generate it for you, so that third party isn't tied to any one specific thing in the community. They're doing an arbitrary assessment of your community and saying this is where we want you to grow. If we determine there's something to change in that comp plan, we change it in their presentation. But we rely on third-party people to give us a direction of where we need to go. We hired JEO a lot to do traffic studies because we don't have staff to perform those traffic studies. And that helps us make a determination of whether we're going to spend $20 million on a street or we're going to spend that somewhere else. So
they're just there to give you ideas.
They're there to help us.
They really don't know our area.
No, they're there to help us make an informed decision. Because when you're spending millions of dollars, you want to make sure you spend it right.
So is
they help us in that.
Is this a line item in the budget, or is this like something that you have budgeted,
As far as
like the consultant money, or?
No, it depends on the year and depends on what we're coming up in the future. Like I said, that we have a 1 and 6 year road plan. So if in 6 years we're going to redo a major road, we'll have a firm come on and we budget that money to pay for that 3 years in advance. So we have all the studies done. So when we get ready for construction, everything is ready to go.
So it's not like a surprise $20,000.
There's also certain grants that we're able to apply for. So if you're aware, we applied for the Build grant earlier this year. That was a transportation planning grant to then hire a consultant to develop transportation options in South Hastings. So that could include an overpass over the train tracks, but that's what we're hiring that consultant for, is to do that study. And so we applied for that grant. Once you get that grant and are able to do that study, you can then apply for a follow-up grant to actually build what you've now identified in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't a town this size, some of that stuff just common sense? I mean, seriously.
You would
I mean,
think,
obviously, there is probably a need for an overpass over the tracks out the south side of town. I think it's
that's
absolutely
what we
ridiculous to
are.
pay someone $30,000 to come and say, hey, you guys need an overpass over there.
Well-
It's not necessarily just the you need an overpass, it's the where would the best location for the overpass be?
Yeah,
They would
why?
also do that initial design work. Generally, it's like 30 to 50% design.
We
So
have an
they do.
engineer, a city engineer. I mean, we
Yeah.
have a lot of intelligent people that work for the city. I would think that, like, again, I think there's some,
but that's where we rely on a third party that has no, I mean, he has no vested interest in the city. We're paying him to give us a professional opinion. Because if we come up with something, do we really need it?
they're gonna come up, they're gonna say that anyway.
Well, kind of. But that's why
Irregardless.
we rely on that third party to give us the best professional judgment that we can to make our
And
decisions.
being grant funded, that means we're not using city resources
City
and
resources. Yeah.
taxpayer money
Yeah.
to do it.
Not all grants are just handed out. A lot of that comes from
Oh,
taxpayer dollars. I mean, at the end of the
Of
day,
course, of course.
if you investigate that, I mean, I know we're a small city and our tax dollars don't probably add up as much in those state grants, but it's still coming from the same pot. I like it, they always pass that around. It's a grant. Well, where'd the grant come from? Who funded it? Who's paying for that grant? It's,
And, yeah.
This might be off the topic, but how about your historic district? Is this going to be affected by it? Because I know people that want to do things to their houses and they can't because of the rules.
So currently, the properties in Hastings that are historic, those are on the National Register of Historic Places. We don't have anything at the local level making those types of determinations. That's one section that we're still working on drafting, is local regulations for historic properties. So at the state level, they do have certain rules in terms of what you can do with your historic property. So
Right.
those historic districts would be maintained, and if we adopt these proposed regulations, they would also be adopted at a local level, and then at a local level, we could have a historic preservation commission who would then make a determination for, say, if a property owner wants to demolish their structure, it would have to go to the Historic Preservation Commission first to determine, does it really need to be demolished if it's a historic property?
who's monitoring that? And my house is considered in the historical district, but if I wanted to knock it down tomorrow, I don't know who's gonna come and tell me. I mean,
So currently,
I mean-
there's no one that tells you that, because just being on the National Register, that's an honorary thing. It's only at state or local levels that they put those regulations in place to protect historic properties from getting torn down. So at the local level, we currently don't have anything adopted. If we were to adopt a historic preservation overlay district, any of those historic properties would then have to go before a historic preservation commission that would then determine, based off of certain criteria, should this property be demolished.
okay, so that's confusing to me, because when Mayor Studi was here, everyone complained about his lack of his house being assessed higher. It says, well, it was because he registered as a historic house. So that he would have to do at the county level in order to defer property taxes. So who was he registering with?
Well, if it's registered on that National Register of Historic Properties, that does have impacts at county and state level where they do have historic tax credits for properties that are listed at the national level.
So does that pass to a new owner?
Because someone just bought Studi's house, what happens
Yeah.
now?
So does that,
So, yeah, if a property is listed on the historic register, it maintains that designation as a historic property. It doesn't matter who owns the property.
I'm not sure how it works, so.
Well, the city regulates that, right?
Yeah, the state regulates historic properties. They have the historic tax credits available. You'd have to talk to a state representative about exactly what's all in that, but they do regulate that, and that's that historic preservation overlay district that we're working at adopting potentially at a local level. That's also through the state. So the state has a certified local government program, which if a city adopts historic preservation regulations, puts together a historic preservation commission, then we could become a certified local government. Becoming a certified local government would then open up grant opportunities at the state level to provide funding to designate other properties as historic, to do a survey of what historic resources we have in the community. There's many different things that could then be done if the city becomes a certified local.
Would that be
government.
necessary if I can just register with the state that I want my house, you know, I want to get those credits? Why would I need to do it through the local level if he's able to get credits just by registering through the state? I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we would need to waste that kind of time and energy if it's all basically through the state anyway. I mean,
Usually-
why would the city need to be involved?
Usually registering at the local level could be the easier method of registering it, as well as that gives the city local control about historic properties.
You can't do
Can
anything.
you get it deregistered?
Can you get it deregistered is what you said?
Yeah.
But
There-
you can't do anything.
No, I'm
with it.
serious, because I did a project downtown under the Historic Act. It was a nightmare.
And I think someone told me that once you register it, it's like,
Yeah,
it's
because
very
You can't
almost
bring your
impossible
money
to
the-
get it,
the
to get it back
requirements-
off.
the requirements cost more than the exemptions.
I haven't heard anything about deregistering a property. I'd have to look into that to see.
Because, like I
What
say, the
those
credits you got
requirements
for it was not enough to cover what they required. So,
Oh my gosh.
But that is one of the layers that we're working on.
It's not me, I don't own it. I'll never own my property.
Well, I'd like to comment as far as historic preservation and as far as the state goes. Look what disappeared from our community on the west side of town, the regional center. It was just sad to watch that deteriorate to a point from lack of care, but then all of a sudden come in and roll in overnight almost and demo beautiful old buildings or brick historical buildings,
Yeah.
gone. And that state did that, you know, and there was a group trying to save those and turn them into affordable housing or
Additional
other
housing.
deals. And you think it fell on deaf ears.
And that's the thing with being able to adopt a local historic preservation ordinance. One of the things that is typically put in there is something about demolition by neglect. If you neglect your property, you basically let it fall apart. The owner would then be fined for that neglect.
Let's find the state.
That's
That's for Gimme, you know, and Prairie Loft, those barns,
We're beautiful.
Yeah.
they wouldn't be saved. I mean,
Just out there.
it took
Yeah.
a lot of energy and communication with somebody that got it done. And we were just out there the other day to an event, and what a great place. But it's
Yeah.
sad to see stuff like that destroyed,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, overnight.
They overnight, they took it out.
Anyway, I had to get that comment.
That's all right.
Yeah, no,
You got
that's-
that off your shoulder.
That's exactly why we want to do these kinds of things, to be able to protect those. That one's state-owned, so maybe we would not have been able to do something, but Prairie Loft, it's not historically registered. So that's an example of a property that we could register and then protect. Or Brickyard Park, it's
Yeah.
also not registered. So Brickyard Park, if someone wanted to come in,
Take the
take that down, they could. But that's the reason for a local historic preservation ordinance, is you'd be able to protect those types of resources. Or Eckhart's Groceries, another example. It's not registered. If someone wanted to tear that down tomorrow, they could.
And we looked into getting on the historical registry, but because we're outside the city limits, it would have to have been state. And if there was county or city, it would have been a much easier process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the overpass? That was historic.
So does the city not have the means to protect historical homes? Or I'm thinking, because I live in the area of Mary Lanning, how many homes have gotten
Yeah, that's another great
demolished?
example. We don't currently have any regulations at the local level to protect those historic properties. And that's one of the things that we're proposing as well, that we're currently working on drafting, is an ordinance to be able to protect historic properties.
But you'd have to register, right?
Do you have any?
Register it, yeah, at the
As
state.
the owner, you have to register it as a historic property if it's in that historic district, because like you said, they knocked them down. Well, as Joe owner, and I didn't register it, and Mary Lanning offered me way more money than it's worth, you know, they can knock her down.
No, but they
You
still
know, I don't
have
think you'd
permits
have
to
It
demolish,
becomes
don't
history, not
they?
historic.
Yes.
I mean, who in the city says, yes, take out 3 houses and put a parking lot? How does that
Once you
happen?
have a historic preservation ordinance, it would have to go through the Historic Preservation Commission, who would then make that determination if it can be altered, demolished, the things that happen to the historic property. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be registered by the owner. That's something that as development services, we could come in, look at that property, determine, oh, that seems like it meets the historic qualifications, send it to the Historic Preservation Commission, send notice to the property owner, obviously, and then get that registered. So it doesn't have to be the owner.
You could register without the owner's permission. So you guys would end up more already owning my home, but, I mean, because if you do that, then for me to sell it, say, the guy look at it, well, I don't want to buy this, it's in the historic district, and like he said, it costs more money to do a remodel or anything. So now I've got this big old high valued house and I can't sell it because you stuck it on the historic register. I'm just
So-
making examples here, I'm
Yeah.
not saying,
No,
but
that's
you have to
that's
have the
great,
owner's
and-
permission, I would think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once it goes to that Historic Preservation Commission, the property owner does get right to denial, or I can't remember quite what the language
It's
is
a public
there,
hearing,
but
just like
yeah,
most of your meetings
So
are.
you could lose.
You could win or lose.
yeah.
It's up to the commission.
So if they really want that property, you're gonna lose.
Well, if they really want it to be a registered historic
I mean, if the
property,
historic commission really wants it to be registered, the property owner is gonna,
And that's the
Probably
language we're still working on, so I didn't bring it at this meeting because it's not,
ready, yeah.
there's still a lot of stuff that we need to work out with the state in terms of what needs to be in it. But that's another thing, once we have another meeting in the future, if there is language in there that the public, planning commission, council, once it goes through those processes, they see it and they're like, oh, that's not going to work at all. We want a way for the owner to be able to veto it, for example. We can write that in. There's nothing adopted yet at this point in time.
As it stands now, does the owner have to apply for it now, or is it?
No, well,
Well,
the
yeah, I think
local
it's the
one that
state.
we're drafting, no, that could be something that Development Services proposes to
Yeah,
the
but I mean-
Historic Preservation
But I mean,
Commission.
currently, the owner has to apply for it, doesn't he?
Currently, yes, for the National Register, the owner would have to go through the process of registering their property.
The question, if you've got a low-density area, and especially like in the south part or some of those houses we talked about off of 12th Street, the war houses, what if a developer comes in and buys like 4 in a row? Either connects them or takes them down, can he go into multiple there to stay within the per acre?
So with that, along 12th Street, what we're proposing is a medium-density residential. So yes, if they were to buy multiple properties, combine those properties and build, say, a fourplex, they would then potentially be able to do that.
Should we say no?
Yeah, you can say no at the planning commission and at city council. It's all public hearings. When we rezone something or replat something, it all goes through the process.
Yeah.
So how do you let people know that besides having to look on your website every day to know what's going on?
Every time we have a public hearing, no matter what it is, it gets published in the paper. We're required to publish it.
But if you don't get the paper?
So it's
It's
published in the
online.
paper, it's sent to owners within 300 foot for any public hearing for like a rezoning or conditional use, and we put a sign on the property.
They do still put signs on?
Yes.
they're not very big, but they do slap it up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But if the change happens, then it's by right.
If,
Once you implement your zoning rewrite, then that's been changed, and
That
now
would
they
be-
have the right to do
that
whatever
would
they
be
want on
the-
those
The
properties.
use would be, but if they're combining 4 lots into one, they would have to replat those lots, and that replatting would go to planning commission and council.
But they could build on one lot.
If the lot's big enough.
Yeah.
In a lot of these areas, those lots are only 50 by 100. They would not be able to build a fourplex because it just wouldn't fit on the lot.
So if you the example that I understand the example that they're using, you know, so they could say they combine 6 lots and build a fourplex, but depending on,
The combining
Yeah.
of those 6 lots would have to go to planning commission.
yeah, but depending on the person's that's building them, and it passes and one person stands up and talks,
Means nothing.
the chances are, or the odds are that that person isn't, the developer's gonna win. And so that person's
If
home.
it's approved, then yes.
Yes,
they would
so
be
that
able to-
person's home, their life, their home, their investment is not, it's just, this is just sad, it's just sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yes.
And I understand the growth plan and I understand everybody, I really understand it. It's just sad.
So then what would you propose? If 4
I-
units is too much, what about 3 or 2?
Yeah, yes.
4 is too much, but 3 would be okay?
You know what, I don't know what the sweet spot is. I just know that, maybe the size of the units and the size of the units, the parking, and I don't have, I'm not, this isn't my school, I just know, I didn't go to school for this, but I do manage the property, and I know that, the size of the lot is a big deal, but I know that living in peace and quiet is very important to me, and also having access to the roads and so that's where I chose to live, but if the next 3 houses were torn down and a fourplex went up, that would just really be sad, because my house is paid off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then there goes the value of my house that was gonna be an investment.
Like I said, that's what we're here to do, is determine what the sweet spot is. It
So-
may be 3 units for you, but over here it could be 5 units. Or
Yes.
somebody else what if Craig wants to tear 6 houses down and build a 32-plex?
Yeah.
His sweet spot's in it because he can get a better return on his dollar.
Yeah.
So we're trying
But
to.
he's not living next door, maybe he's not living next door to it.
Doesn't matter. He has the opportunity to buy that piece of property when it comes up for
Yeah,
sale.
so,
And-
But I think,
so it
I
doesn't
mean,
matter.
I think
It's
we
like I
have
said,
to
it doesn't
protect-
matter. My opinion doesn't matter then.
It does, we're trying to find the sweet spot.
But you
that
just
works
got done
for the
saying
city.
that it doesn't. To me, that's what I heard.
So I guess I gotta come back to, why didn't we pursue some of this housing when we gave out all this TIF money? And why didn't we designate a couple lots at the Elm Street? Okay, these are gonna be, this one's gonna be a fourplex, this is gonna be a fourplex, or whatever those lots were, so we had some medium housing mixed in with this density that you're talking about. Now you've got a new development going up out on here on Highway 6, don't you? Has that been proposed, that maybe a couple of those lots might be, these fourplexes that we keep talking about? Why do we wanna drop them into single-family housing? Like, okay, we got a house here and a house here, let's just drop this fourplex, because somebody bought 3 houses here.
Well,
because they were
remember,
old.
there's other caveats that go along with, we can't just drop a house in. It has to meet all the other setback requirements, the size of the lot, access to the lot. There's a whole bunch of things that go into seeing if it works for that. Not every lot's gonna work for that.
Well, I realize that, but I just still feel like, especially like what these plans say, when we're giving out TIF money, that's when we should be pursuing this, because we're giving them something, let's get something in return.
I think, but TIF money is a loan. It's not,
It is, but
it's not
that's-
giving money
But
away.
they
We
talk
have to-
about that in the state plan, that that's, that's a perfect opportunity to provide some of this housing.
But
Let's not, there's all these housing developments going up all over, we don't have any of that housing, none of that's designated as anything but.
I really think TIF money, in my opinion, I really think TIF money should be single-family homes, because it provides stability, community,
That's
and
not what I'm
things.
saying,
No,
I'm just saying we should have.
But on the other hand, the TIF money is then paid by the homeowner, not the developer, so it's free money to the developer.
TIF money stays with the property, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stay with the developer, it stays with the property.
That's what I'm saying. The new owner of the house pays it, not the developer. The developer
Right.
gets the TIF money to
No,
build,
I don't.
and then the homeowner pays it. I know.
It depends on who has the TIF loan. Oftentimes, the developer will bring their TIF note to a bank, so the bank is the one that then holds that TIF note. The bank is then the one that collects that TIF funding. So
From the owner.
in that case, yeah, if the house is sold, the owner pays their taxes like normal, except a portion of that taxes will then go to the bank to pay off that TIF note.
Yeah, but that goes to the owner paying it, not the developer. The developer got the money for the TIF loan. He builds the house, sells it immediately. The owner is assessed that tax, not the developer. The developer walks off with the free money.
There's no free money though.
The developer gets a loan from the bank.
But who pays the loan off? The homeowner does, not the developer on TIF.
Yeah, from the taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what did the developer pay? He borrowed it from the bank, builds a house, sells the house, the TIF money is paid by the owner.
If he doesn't get that TIF, what's the benefit for him, is what he's saying. I mean, obviously, he got something out of it, or he wouldn't have asked for TIF money to develop the property.
You have to have qualified expenses for TIF.
But how does it benefit the developer if the developer sells it and walks away? How did that benefit him in
Because
any
he
way,
sold-
shape, or form? Because you don't collect any property tax until the house is done.
But the
he got
developer
the
got the
loan
money
from the
to use, and then he sells the house. The new homeowner is paying that loan off, not the developer. So the developer got that money for free to build his project.
I guess in a roundabout way.
No, not a roundabout.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And then I've seen some on TIF, getting off on a tangent, but on TIF, I've seen some projects that were built on the south side for individual housing, that the first thing they did was file for a homestead exemption and paid no taxes on it.
Yeah, that
Those have to be there 10 years.
Once again, we don't control homesteading.
No, I know, no, just saying.
Right.
I'm hearing concerns, valid concerns from individual homeowners, and I'm one of them, but if you've had hearings in the past, can you cite examples or an example to me where the zoning was not permitted because a homeowner came in and said they didn't want it? Like up when they did the Elm Street up at 26. Did any homeowners show up at a hearing and express that they didn't want that?
They did come to that meeting, yes.
And what happens to their concerns? It sounds like they fall on deaf ears. Always.
It's planning commission and council. I don't know how they make their determination, but they listen to what the developer has to say, what the concerned citizens, homeowners say, and then make their determination.
So there's no examples of it going the other way, and they've said, no, we're not gonna do that though.
We'd have to go back into the records and look at all that.
Planning commission.
Did
Planning
the-
commission green light. It's
Did the
pretty much you're not gonna
developers
stop it.
give these specific options, or were there other options? I can see if we were like running out of land space too. But I feel like, you know, just we are expanding, and why can't we go more this way, like we have been with the duplex and the multifamily?
So that's one of the
And then
things-
then we're kind of sprinkling in the single family there, kind of like the rest of Hastings is.
So that's one of the things that's why we have an affordable housing action plan. That's one of the things they looked at is how to develop in the future. So you're not just developing out, but also some density, some infill development within town. And I'd have to look back at exactly what was in their study. That's also on our website if you're curious at looking at it, but that and the comprehensive plan and state statute, that's what we're looking at when we're making these proposals. But it doesn't have to be 4 units, it could be 3 if that's a better fit for the community. Because we're looking at the individual homeowners, what do they want to see in their neighborhood, but also taking into consideration the growth of the community, the developers, what they would want on a property.
What about up north? Where they're building all about $500,000 houses, how's this gonna affect them?
Well,
Not
that's,
at all.
that's
It
part
won't.
of the,
It won't affect them.
like the pizza, it's part of the pizza. It's not the whole pizza, it's part of the pizza. There's niches that we're trying to fill everywhere. We can't stop $1 million homes, you don't want to, that adds valuation.
And in those neighborhoods, we're also proposing changes.
Yes.
Accessory dwelling units, if you want to build a granny flat in your backyard, that's one of the things. If your lot's large enough, you would then be able to build something like that in, say, Lockland, Lake Hastings, those neighborhoods.
Well, those are the only neighborhoods that would have lots. I mean,
Could you
for the most part,
just
in
explain
ours.
to us, I've read through the comprehensive plan front to back, and I've talked to 2 or 3 people that were on the comprehensive planning committee. And I'm not understanding quite how this rewrite specifically aligns with the adopted comprehensive plan. I think what we are seeing is a very extreme push for high-density housing or higher-density housing throughout the whole of Hastings, and that's not what I'm reading in the comprehensive plan. And the people that I talked to said, I don't remember any conversation about increasing the density of housing within the existing areas.
Bring up the future line.
So that's what we're looking at with these densities.
I have the map out of my truck, I forgot to bring it in, but
Residential estates, which is that Second Avenue, the consultants proposed 0.33 to 2 dwelling units per acre. This area specifically is currently between 0.25 and 0.69. So that is a slight increase in density in that district.
Where's that at exactly?
So that's east of Laughlin, so this is Laughlin Road here,
So
Second
that
Avenue.
acre of land only gets 0.2 to 33, where the acre of land behind, what is that, Menards, that area out there, gets 16 dwelling units per acre?
Yes.
So why is that?
It's a different part of town, it's the character of the district.
So they're getting
There's-
preferential treatment, so you're saying that it doesn't affect them, but yes, it affects them. That's a pretty significant difference there, you're saying. You could put a twoplex here, but you could put 16 units on this acre.
That's the way it was originally platted and zoned, is why it allows.
Well, then
for
I
that
think it should be an
15
equal
acre.
fair, if that's the truth, if that's an empty acre, they should get 16, I mean, it should be, if you're gonna do it, it has to be equal across the city. It shouldn't be, okay, we're gonna drop this in your neighborhood, but we're gonna let them out.
Well, that's the planning principles. This is not a road with a lot of traffic, so that would not be a good area for high-density residential. You're looking at those roads with more traffic flow is generally where you put your high-density residential to buffer commercial and low-density residential.
What difference does that make? If you put some units in there, you're gonna have a high traffic area. Put 16 units, you're gonna have some traffic. You're gonna increase the traffic. I mean, that doesn't make, I mean, in my neighborhood, we could park on one side of the street, so if somebody's gonna knock 2 houses down, which we have a lot of older homes there, this could be a real thing that could happen, and we have parking on one side, and we don't have enough parking now, because, like I said, in just my one block, there's already 5 rental houses, and there's people that park everywhere, so there's not, so I think if you put 16 units in, you're gonna increase the traffic. It's gonna be a high traffic area.
It would increase the traffic, but you're looking at what the infrastructure is. To bring infrastructure out to these areas on the edges of town, it doesn't make as much sense as building in town where the infrastructure is already there.
There's houses going up all over out there, the infrastructure, I don't think, if you're talking about water and sewer and that kind of stuff, I don't think that is.
well, and how much improvements are we gonna have to do to some of our declining infrastructure? I mean, you get to over there on the east side of town,
Yes.
the north side of town, south side of town, some of those streets, you can't park on both sides of them already. Where are you gonna have parking? How is our sewers? I mean, we already having sewer issues and replacements and deteriorating streets, and now we're gonna increase traffic and try to increase density. What's the infrastructure cost gonna be on this? And who's gonna foot that bill?
I mean, it makes more sense to put in new infrastructure for these high units than to try to slap it into, like Frank said, like in my case, sewer system in my neighborhood's old. I mean, it's been there for a long time. So I think, you'd have a hard time saying, I'm gonna put a fourplex or whatever, 2 fourplexes in there, because that would be more expensive than putting it in new.
I have a question. Where are we gonna get all the people to put in these units?
That's something that the market
They raised the
would.
population in Hastings 252 people in the last 10 years. The two census you get a look at. Where are we gonna get the rest of the people to fill them up? If they're empty, we are paying for them.
In the comprehensive plan, the consultants identified a potential growth in population between 500 to 2,000 people in the next 10
That's not happening. People ain't
years.
having babies no more. They're wrong.
That's not.
Why are we building buildings that aren't gonna be filled? Because this whole conversation goes away if the buildings are empty. You want to, wait a minute, come to me, let me
Yeah,
finish.
sure.
It's called the underused property. Jay Beckby put it in Wednesday's paper, I think it was March 14th, if you want to look it up. They want to fill every spot in the town. Underused properties. He's got 3 of them, he just moved out of 2. But that means if your yard's got room for more, or your house, you're in a house of 4 bedrooms and you're in there by yourself, they want to fill that. They've got someplace else to put you if you need to go there. It's not a very safe thing to do to people. Because if we don't have the people, why are we building? I mean, it sounds like you've got thousands of them out there we want to build. We've got to put somebody in them to pay the taxes. If not, it goes on the burden of the people that are left.
That's right.
The developers wouldn't build apartments,
They do if they get free
townhouses.
money. We're giving a lot of grants away that
Yes.
we're paying.
This study of yours says that
My God, somebody's got
over
to
the
look at
next
the
5
dollars
years,
that
Hastings
everybody else is still
population
paying.
is expected to remain relatively flat and may decrease to 25,139 persons within 10,044
There's only 6 countries that
households.
actually have a better
So they're
population.
predicting a flat growth of population
Yeah.
in the city. This is your report, I
Yeah,
printed it off.
Thank you
in
for
that
bringing the
housing
proof.
study, that's the thing, that was a different consultant.
This was done in
that did the comp plan.
2020, and you don't only have to do it every 10 years, so.
But this was the one that we paid for.
Yes.
We've paid for multiple studies, we've paid for 2 housing studies in the past 5 years,
So
we've done a
you
comp
have
plan.
different, so you've gotten from different
Different
consultants.
answers, so what did you
different
hire a
opinions.
different consultant
Yes.
so you get an answer that you liked?
Well, the federal government did my numbers. Didn't cost me a dime.
Yeah,
The signs out here
census-
have got 3 different numbers on them.
The census
Take
is
your
done
pick.
every 10 years, so in 2030, the US government will do another census, and that will be the official count of the population.
Yep.
Until that point in time, consultants do estimates based on what they think the population growth or decline will be.
So you did 2 different housing studies in a 5-year period.
So we're gonna
Is
grow
it- was the
500 more
second
people,
one
but we've got
so that
50,000
we had a
units to
better-
put
Let
in.
her talk, better numbers? Because according to what I looked up, you only have to do this every 10 years. So why are we paying to do 2 in 5 years? Are you
So-
wanting a better answer, one you liked better?
We want the most accurate numbers that we can achieve.
Well, the city of Hastings has not grown hardly at all in the last
In
25 years, and so I don't believe.
My life.
I don't believe that from 2020 to 2023, all of a sudden, we're going from a relatively flat to possibly decreasing to all of a sudden, we're gonna have 3,000 more people move into the city. I don't think that's realistic.
And I
In
think
20
also, we don't have any jobs. There's hardly any jobs here.
Industry.
In industry, if you're gonna bring all these people in, where they're gonna have work.
Yeah, we're not, that to me is just, that's just something they pulled up out of the sky and just put
So
it.
in 2023, we did that affordable housing action plan that was required by the state. In 2025, we did an update to the study because of all the housing development we've had. Because we've had Elm 26 built, we have Cedar Park built.
And none of it's affordable.
And
So we shoved that
that's
down
what
our
we had the
throats.
consultant look at. We had the consultant look at it like, oh, we did this study prior to those developments. Have things changed since we've done that last study? That's why we did another study that quickly after
Because
that
I
first
just
one.
can't honestly believe that all the housing that's been built in this town, that we have any need for any more housing. You know, when all this money was given out, was done, they said, this is median housing, this is affordable. Well, the median house money in Hastings is like 60,000. The actual person in Hastings makes about 32,000. And that I got right off of the internet, you know. So we based it on something that's unrealistic to start with. What's the occupancy rate of all these places? At the mall and at Elm?
At Elm 26, we reached out to them recently. Their first building is entirely filled. Their second building is at about 75% occupancy. They're working on filling their third, fourth, and fifth buildings because usually it takes a couple of months to fill these places, and they are filling up as expected last time we talked to them.
They're doing some pretty hefty move-in specials.
I see they're doing that in Grand Island too. They give their
The
reimbursement
traffic
rent.
flow is just terrible there. Didn't they check that out first?
They did do a traffic study for 26th and Elm Street, and that study identified that there was not need for lights, turn signals, or any of those things. So once they do a repeat of that study and that identifies that that is needed, then those things will be put
So we
in.
have to pay another consultant to come in now
Yeah,
that's
to
built
just
and
redo
tell,
that.
oh yeah, I guess we need a light there. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like a lot of
Engineering
money being
departments-
spent.
The engineering department did go back out and do a traffic count at that intersection, and at this point in time, there is not a need for any changes to that intersection.
Really? Jumping down the street. New school.
So I do home loans, and from what I've seen, obviously our population has not grown. We have a lot more. Why we need, in my opinion, why the housing need happens, or just with life, we have a lot more single parent homes. So we don't have the family now having one home, there's 2 homes. So there's a lot of that. The other thing, and I love that we needed more apartments, and we needed that for the young people that, you know, a lot of young people, they may work from home on these tech jobs or work from home on jobs that you may have no idea. If I tried to explain to you what they did and what their income was, you would be blown away. So we do have young people that want to live in our area that do want those apartments and those amenities and all of that. The younger generation is not wanting to purchase a home maybe until they're in their 30s or mid-30s,
Or
not
at all.
younger. Or at all. They want to live in this. So I love that we have that. But my question is but I'm also part of Habitat for Humanity. I know we've talked and you guys have helped us with some lots, which has been great. But we need the single family home. I feel like the single family home is what is going to give the biggest hand up to families, to young families. So what in this plan do we have for single family homes? Are there options to have smaller lot sizes? What do we have for that? Because I really think that if we want people to, you know, stay here and reside here, and I think that's really what we need.
That's what builds a community, is single family homes.
And that's one of the things that we're proposing. Tiny homes is not something we currently allow. We have a minimum of 650 square feet. We're proposing lowering that to 200 and creating lower, smaller lot sizes as well to build those smaller single-family homes.
And I'm not talking tiny homes, I'm talking like 1,300 square feet, 1,200
And
square
even
feet.
1,300 square feet, that's allowed throughout our R0, R1, and R2 districts.
What does the frontage have to be on those lots?
We decreased that to 50 foot to take into consideration some of our smaller lots throughout town
And
that
that's already
are
been
at
done?
50. That's what we're proposing.
Oh, that's what you're proposing, okay, that's good, I like that. Because is it 70 now?
It's 70 in the R1 district, yes.
Good. And then, as far as homes that are already existing, what is the grandfathered in frontage?
So, for existing homes, if they're already at 70 or 50, they don't have to make any changes to that. They'd be considered a non-conforming structure, which they would then be able to maintain their current structure, build it back as long as it doesn't go over that 50% damage to the structure.
So 50, there's 50 is the minimum, okay.
I have a question. I don't know where it's at, but I've seen them. They're like little tiny homes, and they touch each other. I think it's over by the lake, maybe. There's a whole bunch of them.
East of the village, what's going on?
I can't remember where they were. I saw them one day. I was driving around.
All the roofs kind of are peaked and touch each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just east of Good Sam. That is
No,
called.
no, it's on the other side.
Oh.
Yeah, the one by Good Sam is Hoppy Development.
Trailside, is that what you're,
Maybe it is, I don't know.
up there by
Trailside
Menards?
Village is over by Menards.
Those are like quads.
They're across from, they're on, over by
That's
the
what
Lake
deeper
Hastings
people-
or
Oh.
something.
That's a deeper build.
And I can't remember where they were. But they were just little tiny houses and stuff.
Put together.
There's behind like the Walmart Cimarron Plaza, there's a series of
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
there's a series of shotgun houses. They're sort of like longer and narrower houses.
Really tiny. They look like they could touch each other.
Yeah, those are in a C3 planned district, so that's commercial business planned district that was rezoned to that by the developer in order to build those smaller footprint of home.
What are the ones on D Street that do, it's the house, garage, and they are?
So on D Street, those are townhomes. So basically with a townhome, you have, the lot line goes through the middle of the structure and there's a firewall between each of those units. So you have, in their case, they have, I think, 5 then a space, and then another 5. So each of those townhomes are on their own lot. They could be sold individually, each of those units.
So those aren't
But
rentals.
the house connects to the garage of the next one.
Yeah,
But you can sell those separate even though they
Yes.
have no land?
yes, because they're each on their own individual lot. So
Even though
the
they're
firewall
connected?
goes through the middle of that structure, and they could buy.
Sounds
So
crazy.
you usually
Their
have to
lots.
form like a condo, and so like there's an association that,
Do they have that?
I don't know on this one.
Do they have an HOA?
How many are gonna be there altogether?
Probably, I'm not sure what if they're planning on renting it or selling
So
those properties.
So they went to the commission and got permission to build these, and they
They-
don't have any plan as to whether or not they're gonna sell them or rent them?
They rezoned those properties. Their plan did include information on renting or owning. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
I would assume they'd be rentals. I can't imagine buying a property that was attached to somebody else's, but I guess, yeah, you know, I don't know.
And there's some people that can't afford a freestanding single family
Yeah,
home,
right.
so it's a great opportunity for
I
them.
just would
So
think.
I love that we are getting
There's plenty of them out of
some
lot.
different options. There's so much focus right now, and I know we'll have the middle school for apartments too, which I think is great, and so I would love to see the focus go back to single family and how we can make that, how we can also, talk to these younger kids about the investment of purchasing a home and that it is a good thing. And I mean, that's a whole nother mountain to climb, but that there is value there in owning your home. So.
Were you saying that this plan would allow it to happen, but there's no guarantee that any of these?
Market will determine a lot of it.
Right.
We're making it possible in the zoning regulations to allow for some of this housing to happen.
So there's
Whether
no-
it does or not,
There's no underlying, there's some developer sitting out there
No.
waiting for.
no, we don't have a crystal ball that tells us exactly what to do.
I know, but we have some pretty much preferred developers in this town, so I know that there's conversations that probably go on that probably shouldn't go on.
Not with us.
But-
Like I said, we're trying
This is a
to
little
design
demo.
zoning codes, and Craig knows me very well, Dan knows me very well. We're trying to design zoning codes that work for the city of Hastings and the citizens that are living there. We are tweaking a little bit, not a whole lot, but we're tweaking to match up with state statutes and the Fair Housing Act. That's all we're doing.
So any of those codes include so that there's some kind of yard or something so that kids could play outside if they wanted
In
to?
certain areas, yeah, we require a certain
But
amount of yard.
half of them I see, there's no yard, whatever. I mean, the poor kid, where's he gonna play in the street or what?
Well, you're getting into my forte now. Okay, so before we change into another subject, it comes down to landscaping properties and our lack of effort on the city part to require landscaping on these building projects. If we had any taste of landscaping, it could have been inserted on the Elm Street project to assist with people accepting that project from the get-go. As it was, you had beautiful houses, beautiful homes, all up and down that street with this 3-story monstrosity sitting 10 feet from the curb. That should have never happened in that manner. Now, one thing that could have been done was proper landscaping plans to offset that structure where it is. Same way with the casino and the racetrack. You got Laughlin sitting over here, you got Walmart sitting over here, you got this lot right in the middle. Somebody wanted to do something with that. With a proper landscaping plan, that might have been more acceptable to even the Laughlin people. Right now they got a field of corn. Looks like they're gonna have a field of corn for some time unless something else comes along. But the point is, we're not using, which is in the the land use and development plan and what they've recommended, but we haven't even made an effort in that direction yet.
This is the comprehensive plan that
Right.
they're trying to match up with. So
I understand, I'm just making this point again. And it's what we've done with downtown. Same way, nothing. Our mission, one of our missions 20 years ago was to soften the hard surfaces of downtown. Second story development was another one. One-way streets was the third one. And the fourth one was an East End anchor, which we got taken care of when that old brewery converted to apartments. So that's taken us 30 years, and I was involved in all 30 years of it. But landscaping, we've got a tree board that we could push all this stuff onto and make requirements of them to put this all together, and it never gets used. They do nothing.
It takes a cooperation of all parties involved.
I understand that, but the tree board can provide muscle for us to do that thing, much like your other commission and boards.
no, the muscle would come from the comprehensive.
Yeah, right. But the point is, we need to broaden our vision in that regard.
And
And I think if it's done right, it would be, some of these developments would be much more accessible. Yards, places for kids to play, little playgrounds, parks, separated area. Right now, you're building I don't know how many $1 million track around the south side of town. Great, okay. So what are we gonna do with that piece of concrete to make it more usable, accessible, fun to use, and so on and so forth? That's my spiel. So thank you for bringing up the yard.
And some of that is in our zoning regulations. What we have proposed in that is a certain percentage of the lot is required to be landscaping throughout different zoning districts. It depends on what district it's in, but we do have that in it as well, and that is something we could look more into in terms of trees
I
as
don't
well.
think we have anybody looking at it.
Oh, we
I
don't.
don't know who does.
Well, we look at the landscape. We don't issue a CO until the landscaping is complete. If the grass isn't in, or the tree isn't planted, or whatever the other requirements are, we don't issue the CO or permanent CO for that structure until that is complete.
A CO is a
Their current
certificate of
zoning-
occupancy.
The current zoning doesn't have landscaping, does it? It does? I thought it was limited.
No, it's still in there. And we follow. When we review a house or a business, we make sure that they follow it.
Businesses are, like, I know when Russ's went in, they were required to put all that landscaping and stuff in, but I don't see the same requirement, like if you go over to Minnesota where they put all those houses along there. I mean, they put the air conditioning units in the front yard. I mean, it's like, who was thinking there, because it looks like crap. I mean, at least they could have put them behind that house instead of in front of the house. And they, and people that live there are not allowed to plant a shrub, a bush, or anything else to enhance their landscaping because of the developers, whoever owns it.
Well, that's on Market and Victory.
And sometimes there's private covenants in place with some of those developments that either the developer or the neighborhood association has their own rules as to what you are and are not allowed to put. So I don't know what requirements they may have had.
Where in Hastings are there neighborhood associations?
Well, like I said, Market and Victory is the only one I can think of. I think there's some.
Covenants.
East Side Estates, I think.
When the 7th Street in Burlington got put together with Russ's IGA, the two banks across the street, the houses got moved from the east side and the west side, and that whole area was developed. There was a landscaping requirement that went in at that area. All you have to do is look at Russ's. They didn't do that on their own accord. They did it as a result of the requirements that were placed upon them. And, that's just one place, but because there were some issues with Lincoln, from 7th and Lincoln to 9th and Lincoln, while that was going on, and they wanted some division between banks and nice residential homes.
Well, then even like when they bought that piece of that lot that I had to transfer it over to where Dunkin' Donuts is, Well, part of the agreement when they bought that little chunk so that they could put they put all that fence all the way
Right,
through there.
that was part
to
of
help
it.
separate the commercial traffic from the residential apartments that I own right behind it.
That kind of come up during construction, didn't it?
Yeah, because it was supposed to be like a block, like a hardscape, but it was so expensive, so they did allow them to use the
vinyl.
But that looks nice, yeah.
Yeah. But there's been stuff like that done to
Yes.
help alleviate the impact of something that
But
might not fit in the residential.
was there a requirement?
There was for the commercial properties.
Yeah,
I don't know what the rule
Well,
is.
I think there might have been on
Didn't
that
that
area,
come
but
about by the back door neighbors getting upset about it?
yes,
I think that's
yes,
what
it
happened.
was,
wasn't
that's
it?
right.
Well, we mean,
I think it was.
we owned a piece of the lot, for whatever reason, the lot that our apartment building sat on went across and went over right underneath, and that's just the way it was, the lot was. So if they didn't buy the lot from us, they could not build the Dunkin' Donuts there because we own that piece of the lot. So, and at the time, I don't think they were even knew what was building there. They were just trying to set it up. It's been so long ago, I don't think Dunkin' Donuts was even a thought in anybody's mind because the bank was there before that, so it might have been the bank, but so part of the agreement was, and I don't know how it all worked.
I think usually between residential and commercial, I mean, I worked in a building out on 12th Street and they had to have a fence behind our
That's part of your
space.
protection of your residential
So that
district from your.
I mean, it was high enough where you couldn't see that.
So
Something went on.
it seems like you have more slideshow. Can we find that online? Or is that something that we should just come to your next presentation to see?
The slideshow is not online, but I could post that on our Engage Hastings website, which is where all our proposed codes are as well.
When I went to your website, because I wanted to read the proposal, this is the one I found in credit, but you're saying this one is obsolete now, so I guess my question is, why is this one still there
We keep
instead of
all
the
the
new one?
historic stuff, there's a lot of stuff on there.
I mean,
So-
I didn't see any newer ones.
On the Engage Hastings page,
That's where I got it.
if you go to the home page, there's this projects tab, you can go to all projects. And then if you scroll down to the development codes update, this is where that proposed zoning map is. And then in terms of documents, here's the proposed uses and districts table, proposed definitions. I thought I put did I not publish it? Okay, well, that is my mistake. It should be on there. I'll make sure to add that onto there. But this is, in this document section is where you'll find the proposed zoning regulations.
Is it on the reports page?
The reports page is our currently published studies. So if you go to the Hastings City website, maybe. Under government, there's this reports and studies page. This reports and studies page has all the plans that we have adopted in the past. So in 2025, we did a housing assessment. 2025 was the comprehensive plan. 2023 was the affordable housing plan. In 2021, we had a housing needs assessment. There's transportation studies on there as well. These are the adopted studies that we have currently.
So those are all the studies we paid for in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Just curious. I mean, $8,000 to $25,000, when you make a median of $15,000 a piece, that's a lot of money.
I have a question on all this stuff yet. You got a draft here, and I assume it's changed at least once.
It's changed multiple times.
Yeah.
How do we know what's changed in these? Is there any kind of a legend that says page 14, paragraph 3, section 5 changed from this to this? So if I have this draft, it's 50 pages long, I go into it 2 weeks ago and say, oh, this is what they changed.
We don't have that documented. I have previous drafts saved as well that I will add to that Engage Hastings page, but it doesn't identify exactly what changed.
So to find it out, I'm going to have to read all this.
Or if you got questions, you ask us, and
Well,
then we'll look it up.
We wouldn't know what question to ask, though. mean, if you're changing something, you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna switch this zoning from what originally we thought, now, but how am I gonna know if you
Could you
made
just
that
highlight
change?
it?
Yeah, and that's something that I haven't done yet, but I could go back and go through that and highlight what has changed to identify these changes.
Isn't this basically a rewrite of the old chapter of old 34?
Yes, it used to be chapter
So, and
34.
That's on the website.
Yeah, but how do I know it's changed?
You gotta print out 120 pages of 34, 120.
Do it yourself.
Which I don't like doing.
And report
Well, it would
back
be
in the
hard
morning.
if you did it.
State statutes, they have the original law, and they show a line through what's getting changed, and then they put in the modifications. How come we don't have something like that?
No, we can do that. The strike-through is what it's called. We can do the
Yeah.
strike-through.
We can,
It'd make it a lot simpler to compare, because we're actually changing from 34 to 50, what?
54.
Yeah, but it
54
does
doesn't make
basically
sense.
what 34 did, right?
Yeah, we're changing, the struggle with this one is we're not just changing the language, we're changing the outline too. So the way the code is put together, it currently has a supplemental regulation section, but no one knows what's all hidden in that supplemental regulations. So we've pulled that out and sort of reorganized things to hopefully make things clearer. So that is something we can put together, the strike-throughs and highlights of what has changed, but it'll be an entirely different format than what we had previously.
I don't know, I just look at making it easier for people who
Yeah.
really want to read through it.
If it was just verbiage changes, strike-through works perfect for that, because you're not changing the structure of your code, where we're changing the whole structure of our code. Strike-through is gonna be very cumbersome, because everything's gonna have a strike-through.
Could it be this draft forward at least to start with, and then it's not from 34 to 54, it's changes to this draft based on public input and things like that.
And everything's numbered in here, so if you
Yeah.
could have it
Yeah.
basically just underneath, okay, we've changed item, whatever, 10 on page 22 to read.
Like I said, the supplemental anyway, we'll just do a strike-through through that, and then reference in that strike-through that we moved it to this section in the main body of the document.
That's helpful, thank you.
So if you're thinking of rezoning, changing zoning on the south side of town, you'll let the neighbors know before anything's done?
We'll do more public meetings. Once this document gets fine-tuned a little bit, we'll have, down at the fire station, we'll have another public meeting, and we'll answer all the questions again. That the changes are very slight changes to their property, and nobody will ever see it in their lifetime. We're just making it allowable to have these changes. Whether they happen or not, don't know. We're just making them allowable.
To change the zoning, but you're not gonna actually change it right now.
We are
They're
changing
changing
now,
the
what we're proposing is changes to the map as well as the text of the zoning document.
So you're gonna let us that live around there know before you do that, so if we wanna object to it, we can?
Yeah, and that will go through planning commission and council as well, so it'll be in the newspaper.
Is there a better way than the newspaper to be publishing
Would you
stuff?
send that?
Well,
I literally get the newspaper, but I'm not going to anymore because there's nothing in it.
I recently subscribed to the City of Hastings events, and it's all the meetings with links to upcoming meeting agendas. And that's been really handy, so that I know if planning commission is coming up, or city council work session, or things like that. So it's on the city website to sign up for those emails, and they just come through with 1 or 2 things a day, so that you know what's going on, and you can link right to the agendas. So that's been really helpful to me. I didn't know about it until recently.
Say it again.
Yeah,
It's called the city events, I've been on that page before.
and it's an email that comes to me because I signed up for the list. And
There's the agendas and minutes city council page.
And then
The Hastings agenda portal.
It's
And
kind of a hard,
this is-
your website's kind of cumbersome.
Yeah, and that's something that.
It is very
it's not
cumbersome to try to
user-friendly.
find what you're looking for,
Yeah.
especially for people that don't use the computer all the time or,
Exactly.
I mean,
And
I
that's
had trouble
something
finding
that
these
IT
documents,
department's
honestly,
Would
and I use the
Would
computer
this be
every
something
day.
that you could keep us current on Engage Hastings?
what's that?
Could you keep us current on what you're doing on Engage Hastings?
On the planning commission items and
Well,
council
with
items?
the code change here.
Yeah, those are all going to be on this development codes update page.
Do you just subscribe right there?
Yeah, this would be the subscribing to the changes we're making to the zoning code itself.
Okay.
But is there a place where you list, like, where the zoning meetings for individual sites are happening? Like, when there's a sign outside the old junior high that there's gonna be a meeting regarding zoning? Could that be listed somewhere on a calendar? Or?
So that's on that events page, so like the city council meetings,
So it
planning
lists the
commission
individual
meetings.
zoning hearings?
You'd have to look at the city council and planning commission agendas, because it won't
So,
list.
are you
It'd be nice if they
saying-
could put that all right there on the front
Is
page,
it
because I
there?
said it's pretty cumbersome to try to
I don't
click,
know.
15 times to get down to where you want to go, and it,
Yeah.
that's when they talk about transparency all the time, that makes us feel like, well, they didn't really want us to go to this meeting, because we're gonna hide it under 16 layers of click, 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 click.
So where those dates are listed, you're saying the zoning meetings,
Yeah, so.
not the commission, but the individual meetings for different sites, those are listed
On
there?
the city council meeting,
No,
you'd have to
you
go
wouldn't know
to.
which,
Wouldn't
no.
know which meeting to go to.
You wouldn't know what meeting
They don't,
minutes to go to.
there aren't individual meetings for each one, they're combined.
Yeah, if you had to look it up on the council agendas, though, you would never know which council agenda that you spoke about it. How are they gonna, she wants to know how we could find out when is that zoning meeting happening? Like the one for
Well,
the junior
zoning-
high,
The zoning
for
meetings are
instance.
listed on this same page. Planning and zoning is.
Yeah, the CUP.
The meetings.
I don't know where it's at.
The
Planning and
meetings,
zoning
but not
meetings
each
are.
individual hearing, like when you have the,
Well, like this?
Traditionally,
no,
it's
like the
she's talking about
public
third Tuesday of the
input
month at
on
the
a
airport.
zoning issue.
Like when they get ready to
for a building.
rezone, how many meetings they usually have, 3 readings to rezone the
We
old
did one
junior
for
high?
planning commission and.
So when are they having those
council.
particular zoning meetings that pertain to
Those are
that one
still
property?
a little far off down the line. There is no rezoning right now, is there?
Well, there's
I don't
a,
think
there's
they
a,
have any applications.
There's no properties in Hastings that have an individual zoning issue?
nobody's applied to rezone
Nobody's
anything?
applied for a rezoning
Okay,
as of now.
so those hearings,
We just
that's all
passed the
I'm
last one,
asking,
wasn't
where
it?
are those hearings noticed on this
And
page?
that's in the newspaper or on this page, if you know what date of the meeting it is, you'd go to the
If
agenda.
you knew the date, you wouldn't be there to look it up.
The date's on the sign too.
The sign on the property sent to the, property owners.
Isn't there a way to have
and
that on
fee.
here?
It is.
What, no, he said you have to know which,
You have to go to the sign and,
so is it listed in the planning and
They'll be
zoning?
listed on that page. The meetings will be, and then you can look up the agenda, what's on it, so.
Well, she doesn't know, she wants to know what day a
You
particular
have to
property is having their
go to the
rezoning
property
meeting.
and look at the
You
sign.
just gotta look at it,
But you wouldn't
We
have
don't
any
know.
idea which agenda to look at.
yeah, we usually see
Well,
them.
you look at the next one so you don't miss it.
Well, I'm just, but you're not,
before,
I mean,
so-
not everybody's, I mean, maybe she's not interested in the property that's getting rezoned over there, but the one that's in her neighborhood, and all of a sudden she sees that, she
They will
would
have
like to be able to
they will
go
have-
there.
Show them the agenda list here.
So if I go to just this council meeting, that one didn't have it because
I'm
that's,
familiar with that.
it's not published yet.
You just go to the next planning and zoning, and look at their agenda and see if anything's on there that you're interested in.
Okay.
So it's City of Hastings notifications, so if you search for that on the city website, you can sign up for that.
So here, if I go to the previous planning commission meeting,
Okay, thank you.
there you go. Here's the agenda, and then it had a public hearing for the conditional use permit for that middle school. That was on
So that's
April
already
21st.
happening.
Yeah.
So if I look at that agenda and I wanted to go to that meeting, I'm way too late.
That's right.
I missed out.
It happened last month.
Yeah.
And planning commission voted 7-0 to approve the CUP, or 6-0 to do the CUP. Went on to the city council and they voted 6-0 to approve the CUP. So it went through the public hearing process. Every time it comes before the planning commission and the city council, there's a public hearing and you can speak at the public hearing, for or against, we don't care.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes.
You don't care, that's the.
Well, no.
No, I got it,
You
no.
can always
We want you
email-
to speak.
You can always
We want you
email
to
Why?
representatives
To
too.
fulfill some obligation or?
No, this is part of the process, government process. We
Well,
want,
I do. I
we
just use
want you to
sign
be
language.
involved
I
in
don't think
this.
it matters who speaks or how long.
It does matter. Dan, how does it matter when you speak at a Board of Adjustments meeting?
Well,
Yeah, well,
well,
How many times have it been reversed?
it's a, as I'm learning, serving on the board of adjustments, it's a more complicated process than what you might think it is. And that there is state statutes that have to be followed, so I'd be lying to you if I say I'm not learning as I go. But I'm willing to spend the time to be on the board. I'm willing to entertain educational meetings from the planning department, and we spend our time trying to do the best job that we can. And I'd be lying to you if I said I understood it all going in, because I didn't understand it all going in. But when somebody comes to us and asks for a variance, what I've learned is there's 4 pieces of criteria that we absolutely have to meet by state statute. And if that doesn't meet that, then it's pretty well done and over with. There isn't going to be a discussion. And you know, we've kind of learned along the way. We've granted a variance that a couple of times that we looked back and said, gosh, did we really follow state statutes exactly the way we're supposed to follow them? And I think we were definitely okay and in line. We weren't, you know, we weren't on really on thin ice, but there's more to it than you realize. And thanks to these guys for educating us on it. I mean, no different than me serving on the CRA over the years. It's been a learning process. You know, there's a lot of people in the community think that that's just free money. That's not free money. They're paying that. Somebody's. If you don't assist those developers, it won't get developed. But it's not free money. We're not just issuing free money. I don't know how else to say it. And some people think that we are, and we're not. They have to pay their property tax, and on the increased value of the property, that money is being used to help subsidize the loan or the development of the property. But after 15 years, that property goes from, say, $100,000 was the initial value, and now it's worth $1 million. That new owner's paying tax on $1 million, and that all goes back to each one of the taxing authorities within the city.
What happens if the property's vacant in 15 years? Somebody you gave financing to, and they have this lofty idea they're gonna have this business in there, or even the one down there at the new junior high. You know, they're saying it's gonna cost $19 million to develop, but it's only gonna be ever worth $15 million. So what happens if you can't rent those units? And so the developer, you know, the developer can walk away from these pretty easily. I mean, they'll just, you know, whatever, go bank.
They have to pay their property
if
tax.
it shows a loss, say the property shows a loss, can they extend that 15 years? Like some NIFA projects?
The 15 years is the maximum. So if the property ends up not being worth as much as they think it will, the developer is the one that foots that difference between the tax increment and
so it's always going to be worth $15 million for that 15 years, even though the property they couldn't unload it tomorrow for $10 million.
For tax purposes, yeah.
So he still has to pay taxes on $15 million, and even if he walks away from it, and the bank gets stuck holding does the bank have to pay?
They abandon the property. It's no different than if you buy a house and you decide I'm leaving town. You own the property. You have to pay the property tax.
Well, for 3 years, and then they'll sell it. You know, if you failure to pay your property taxes, then the city's gonna take it back. And so now they're gonna say, we gotta get this unloaded, we're just gonna sell it.
The developers also have, you know, financing as well, and loans, and those have to be paid too, so.
Well, 90% of the time, though, the bank assumes that if somebody, you know, a lot of these ones that get sold on, you know, if it's worth a lot of money, the bank's not gonna just let somebody come into the courthouse and buy it at an auction for, you know, 30% of what the loan is.
Right, so there's obligation there by the developer, like the developer is going to have to pay. I mean, I wouldn't wanna, to me, if somebody's wanting to come in and invest that kind of money, I would imagine they've tried to do as much research as they can.
Lots of things. I was just curious in a what if scenario.
Yeah.
But it'd be the same thing, like I'm not gonna go buy $1 million house if I know I can't make the payment.
Well, people do it every day. That's a reality.
And on the example, like the citizen input for zoning changes, if, say, someone can't make that particular meeting when they've looked at the agenda, we could email or call to share our concerns too, right? So there are
Yeah.
different ways to engage.
Yeah, like I said, we had one-on-one meetings with Amy and another constituent. Our office is open 8 to 5. If you want to talk to us, call us and make sure we're there. We're
But if
happy
we
to
come and talk to you, we don't make that meeting and it doesn't become public and you don't agree with what I'm talking to you about, is that really something you're gonna bring up? Oh, it's so-and-so
No,
came in the office
no.
today and I don't
You
really.
can email too, and then
Yeah.
you've
Yeah,
got
if
a
you
written
email,
record.
if you email your opinion either for or against, we'll print that out, give that to the planning commission as well at the meeting. So you don't have to be at the meeting. If you let us know before the meeting, then we'll provide that to the planning commission.
Because that was asked at the CUP, was there anybody that stood up against the CUP for the middle school project? And nobody stood up against the middle school project. That gets recorded.
Yeah, what did Dunny good?
Well, it did the first time. As staff, we recommended not to
Pass the rezoning,
pass the rezoning because it wasn't following the rules.
and it was denied the first time. But then they made changes to it, came back, and then this time it did get approved.
But it didn't pass because of public input, it was a zoning issue. What we're saying is,
Our input doesn't
I
really
don't amount to
LPs.
feel like our input is,
Doesn't matter much.
It doesn't matter. It might be valued because you've got to check a box.
Well, no, we
It
don't.
says
The
we
only
have
box we
hearings.
check is when we develop a product, this is what we're trying to develop.
Right.
We want the best thing to put forward. Because the next 5 years, everybody's gonna look at this document and go, what did you create? Now, we're the only two creating that product? Yeah, we can't defend it. But if we have input from the public, and you don't have to like everything that happens, but you can try to understand what we're trying to achieve by allowing certain things, we're going to create a better product and a municipal code that anybody can go and look at and read it and go, okay, I understand what they're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do here. Take everything out of this that nobody understands. Take out the supplemental section that nobody reads because it's 48 pages down the line. Let's design a code together as a community and us that you can understand. You don't have to agree with everything.
Kevin, Ember, I appreciate what you're doing. And both of you are relatively new to Hastings compared to most of the people sitting in this room. I know at least 90% of the people here. Most of us have chose Hastings as our home because we like the neighborhoods, we like the demographics, we like the way the community lies. So when you start talking about changing neighborhoods like Ringland Road, North Lincoln, North Kansas, there could be significant changes. Some of these neighborhoods that are, I think are really nice neighborhoods. They were part of the reason why I liked Hastings when I first moved here. I lived up on North Kansas for 20 years before I moved to my current place. I think that scares people.
It does.
And so I think personally there needs to be something in that protects those older neighborhoods within the city of Hastings, because who this does not affect, or does not affect much, is your Laughlin neighborhoods, your Lake Hastings neighborhoods, or any of your newer residential estate neighborhoods, or your low density, what you've proposed is low density. What it affects is our middle class and our lower class neighborhoods within this town, because I think what you're now going to do is open up properties to now be speculated by outside investors when they come up for sale and purchased, to just sit on and wait. Not a fan of corporate housing.
Yeah,
Corporate
and-
housing is going to be the downfall to the American dream.
And that's happening all over the United States.
It is,
But it
and
doesn't
I
have to
think we
happen
should
here.
protect
It doesn't have
our
to happen
residential
here.
areas
And
in
that's
Hastings,
going to happen
Nebraska.
whether it's zoned R1 or R2 or R3. That's going to happen no matter what.
We don't have to make it
Well, yeah, but we can have set aside areas for the high density and the corporate
Yes, and
housing.
we-
I think there's a
and we've
need
done-
for it.
we have
There's a
done that
need
through
for
our-
it, but I think we have to protect
Yeah.
our single family homes.
And we have done a lot of that in our future land use map, adjusting that to not allow for a fourplex in an R1 neighborhood. We have that on 7th Street. Okay? You take those single family homes, now you've got a fourplex or 4 apartments in it, and it's zoned R1. Why? Because the market demanded it, or somebody said, oh, I'm gonna do it, and don't care.
Well, that's
Okay.
what most of them did, and the city has absolutely. One of the things the city needs to do though is they need to find out what is rental property. You know, who's renting property, because you know what, they talk about how to generate money. Well, you know what, maybe these people should pay some fees to have all this rental property, because you know, they don't take care of them, a lot of them.
A lot of communities do have a rental inspection program where they have their rental properties are supposed to be registered with the city. If they don't, they can be fined huge fines, and then we can inspect them once a year to make sure that they meet the minimum standards of living, smoke detectors, hand railings, the windows aren't broken. There's a plethora of things.
Because I think you're opening this up for someone to walk into a neighborhood and buy an old house and convert it into 2 units, because I can guarantee there's a house on the corner where I live and now it's been redone. But there was 12 people living in that house, and when it went for sale, I went and looked at it. I opened a door and it was probably this wide, and what it was a closet, but there was a toilet in it. So they've just, you know.
Because they do the work without.
If you're gonna do this kind of zoning and allow this kind of stuff, then somebody needs to be paying attention to that. Maybe we need this rental thing where you guys go and inspect the property, because you're gonna end up, you know, this is gonna be great for the meth houses.
More regulation.
You know, I mean, my brother lived across on University. That meth house was there for 3 years before the police could do anything about it. They were breaking into his home. I mean, this is, it's just opening it up for, well, we can't do anything because they can have, you know, 6 people living there. So
when I was studying to be a certified home inspector, the first thing they said, one of the first lessons was, you can't judge the house on its appearance because you don't know the background of the person that's living in that house. That might be a mansion compared to where they came from. So if you start trying to over-regulate rental properties, now all of a sudden you will have no affordable housing.
I don't think you need to over-regulate it, but I think it needs to have a minimum of living requirements for some of these poor people that have to live in them. I mean, you know, my sister was one that didn't have a lot of money, and a couple of places that she rented, I'll be honest, they were sad, but that's all she could afford. And you know, they should have some kind of a minimum standard where the, you know, the toilets work.
Your minimum standard might be different from somebody else.
Well, the toilet should work.
Well,
the shower should work.
Right.
You know, I'm talking about basic necessities. I'm not talking about having brand new carpeting or anything like that.
And we are seeing a lot more like multi-generational families, like families having to live together. So we are seeing more single-family homes where I might not live there with 8 people, but somebody else.
And I'm not criticizing that part of the puzzle. I'm just saying, you know, there should be a minimum so that people have a somewhat of a standard of living. I mean, they should have working toilets. They should have showers that work.
I would hope it's
and that a lot of these rental properties in this town, if you watch online some things that people post, they're disgusting. And we need to have somebody.
And some of the owners that own it.
Yeah, they're getting away with this, and I understand that there's all types of living situations, but we need to have, like you said, I don't want to over-regulate. I don't think we need, you know, 50 pages of
what would happen if we introduced a rental inspection program in the city of Hastings?
Well, you're going to drive all the rents up, or you're going to have a lot of rental properties that would come up for sale to be probably snatched up by a different investor, or you would have stuff that would end up condemned. You will have a lot of people that don't have a place to live.
Or they abandon them.
Yep. Or they abandon. So where do you want the city to fall? You want us to enforce the rules, but we can't just walk into a house and enforce a rule. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it.
You got to be. It's a really slippery slope, because if you start regulating, it's just going to be one more expense, and now the cost of rents just went up another 25% from where we're already at.
That cost, they're going to pass it on to the renters.
So every time a property taxes go up, and they say, well, it doesn't affect the rent. I've heard people argue that it doesn't affect rents. Well, it does affect rents, because the property owners have to adjust for that. I think right now, I wish I had all the apartment units I owned years ago, because I think the profit margin on those would be really high right now. But at the time when I sold them, I thought that was crazy money they were offering for me, because I didn't ever imagine that you could get $900 to $1,000 a month out of a 2-bedroom, or more out of a 2-bedroom apartment.
Insurance and property taxes for my units went up $130 per unit per month. I couldn't raise my rent that much for my tenants. So I'm eating that. I couldn't raise my rent that much overnight for my tenants. between insurance and.
Do you own the properties?
I manage it.
Okay, so well, most of the people that own the properties, like that was an individual.
I didn't do it. Well,
on a low
I did
profit
on my
margin
property,
because you
but-
borrowed money to buy these properties, and then the properties I had, I fixed them up very nicely, and I believed in providing a quality unit for
I do
a
too.
reasonable rent price.
I do too.
So when stuff went up, we had no choice but to adjust prices to cover the costs. Now, I didn't work in the cost of the remodels. I bought, 2 houses I bought were full of the meth dealers. And actually, when we were remodeling, we found $120,000 worth of meth above the ceiling in one of the bathrooms. And when Sheriff Kemp came over and got it, he said, "Oh, I arrested the guy that lived upstairs," because I called and turned it in. But
I heard forgot it was his stuff.
240. What's that?
I heard it was 240.
You heard it was 240? Well, there's a long story that goes with that. But anyway, so there was, and we did what we could do to fix those up. But as costs increase, you have to pass those along to the tenants. Now, are there probably some properties here in town that are way overinflated on rent? Sure. But they're now some of the cheapest ones because of the new stuff that's been built and how high the rents are on a new apartment. So when new stuff comes in at $1,200 to $1,700 a month rent, well, that house that was $800 or $700, well, now I can get $1,000 out of that, and I'm still way below what they're getting out here, and it's a house. And that's just how some people think. Most of the people that I did work for that were property investors, and myself also, the philosophy was you tried to provide a really good product at a reasonable rent. Unfortunately, there's been fewer and fewer of those investors over the last few years. But it takes all types of housing to make it work.
And affordable is different for different.
Exactly.
There's just, our average median income, I just looked in Hastings, in Adams County, for a home is at the 100%, and now you're talking 60%. It's $93,000 a year. So if you have 2 people making $25 an hour, they're making over $100,000 a year. Right? Yeah, $104,000 a year. 25% of that, which on average, Dave Ramsey says it, that's your house payment. That $100,000 is about $8,600 a month. So your 25% range is $2,000 a month for a house payment.
Is that before or after taxes?
This is before, yeah. So that, so it just, that's kind of the world we live in now. I know it's hard to believe, and I even think of like where we were when we bought our first house and what wages were and what we could afford. So affordable is different for different people, but the average median income is what it is. That's why those places are being rented, because we do have people that are able to afford it. That doesn't mean that this family can only afford $900 a month. Yes.
Median income in Hastings is like $62,000. But the actual income is like $33,000. There's a big difference between the median and the, they use that median income to get housing like they got.
According to Fannie Mae, the average median income in Adams County is $93,000.
Yes,
that's
not right. That's not right.
If you're looking at the wider Adams County area, that maybe could be a possibility.
Right.
But
I am looking at Adams.
we have 90% of the, almost 90% of our youth are on free or reduced lunches in the city of Hastings.
Yeah, right.
Hastings itself is right at 60,000.
Yeah, it's like 62, I think, is what the current.
And the renter income is different too.
Yeah, 80% is 74.
What is it, Kevin? You guys know what it is, Kevin, because you use it for your affordability study.
Well, that's in that comprehensive
It's
there
in the
too.
comprehensive plan. I can get that pulled up.
I think it's
So
went
the
up,
median
though.
household income in Hastings, Nebraska is approximately $64,048 to $61,354 based on the 2020 to 2024 data. Per capita income is around $36,004. So, there's a big difference between what people actually make and what they could buy. And they take what everybody makes in the county and divide that by the number of people that live
here.
here.
You also got to remember,
And that's how they get that
50% of the population makes less than that. 50% of the population makes more than that.
Right. I'm just saying
Affordability is different for everybody.
Yeah, but
Median is where you
this is what
knock
they
out the
use.
low, you knock out the high, and you go exactly. in the middle of what's left.
Well, everybody's got an assignment for the next meeting.
What's
It's
that?
in
So it'd
writing.
be 80, which would be your
Put
average.
your questions, right?
Knock out-
Yeah, get them in right, like I said, or
I'll
come
get
to
some
the office.
questions to them so they can.
Like I said, we want to hear from you. These are important. Your questions and answers are important to us.
Well,
If you're uncomfortable with something, we can go back and we have a formula that we plug some of these things in and go, okay, does this work? Okay, it works a little bit better. Then that's what we present the next time.
I really liked what Craig said. We all like our neighborhood, but I live on the east side of town. I'm really uncomfortable with that 11% density unit, 11.67.
But that's only in certain districts. That doesn't go for R1 or
But
R2.
like I said, I think that should be fairly equated across the whole state, our whole city. I don't think that Batelaan and Hastings Lakes with their acreage should be excluded from that.
When we met at the office, we did get all the way through the slides, and that was really helpful to me to put it all in context, and we didn't get very far into that presentation, so, yeah, if you,
It's the same one that you did at the city council meeting though, right?
Yeah,
At
the
at the work
density chart,
session.
yep.
So, yeah, and I live close to the college, and I'm just gonna reiterate, I'm still uncomfortable with that. I'm just gonna reiterate what Craig said. He said it perfectly. I talk in circles sometimes and I apologize, but I'm just still uncomfortable with that. That's what I'm gonna
Most of us
say.
value the look of that area, Hartwell Park, I mean,
Yeah, just,
Turner Avenue, the college, I mean, it's.
that's why I bought in that
It might not
area.
be historical, but to those of us that
Live there.
have lived here, went to school there, been a part of Hastings for a long time, it is historical to us.
I live by Crozier Park, and I just,
Crozier Park area, same way, I mean, that's.
and the monastery, and I see that coming, I see that as the next middle school, and I don't want to see that happen.
Well, you look at the campus at Hastings College, they got a brand new dorm.
Yeah, I know.
322 students in
I know.
that tiny little space.
I know,
Okay, that's gonna increase the density,
I know.
but only for that little portion of the campus. Okay, it doesn't affect Hartwell Park, it doesn't affect 9th Street, 10th Street.
It does affect the traffic pattern.
Yes, it does.
Because they go 55 miles an hour down my street. I bought signs that are gonna go up this weekend that say slow down. I got flags that are gonna go up. It's not gonna matter, but I got hit with my dog, and I'm tired of it. And I don't, if they would've killed my dog, you would have read about me in the paper, but and I would have gladly gone to jail. You would have read about me in the paper, state. But I'm just gonna let Craig speak for me from now on. But I'm gonna incriminate myself in a public meeting. But I don't feel comfortable with that high number, and I know it's only for certain districts, but
Well, this map shows what's already there.
yeah.
So that 11 that is on campus, that's the,
Yep.
oh, what are they called? The,
Your park.
The dorms.
yeah,
The dorms and the
Hastings College Taj Mahal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But generally in this area, what's already there is between about 5 to 9 dwelling units per acre. So if someone were to build another property in that area, it would likely remain around that 5 to 9.
So when is the next meeting and where's it gonna be at?
We do not have a next meeting scheduled yet. We're still working on other sections of the code. If I go to the timeline.
Well, I am really sorry to interrupt, but our library closes at 7.
Sorry. I was so into the meeting, I didn't pay any attention. but-
Sorry, I was talking, I'm sure.
Oh,
But-
it's hard to hear in these rooms anyway, so.
Thank you for staying late. I apologize.
Oh, it's just, it's a
Thank you, Ember. Thank you.
Thanks for the pizza.
So if you didn't sign the presentation, you didn't get